Hi, I'm Tessa, a veteran educator working in the field of special education.
And I'm Kim, mom of 2 autistic boys and a late diagnosed autistic person myself.
And welcome to Totally Over the Spectrum, where we dive into embracing autism through understanding and support.
Hi, and welcome to episode 33. And today we are discussing what happens to your autistic child when you're gone.
Well, without effective planning, you're up Schitt's Creek without a paddle.
I know that this is a topic that no one really wants to think about, but everyone should have a will.
And we have discussed this in depth and the importance of it. And so I'm going to let you dive into the technical terms first, and then we will have the realistic conversations about everything, the components that go into making sure that this is done right.
Yeah, and at the end, I have a list of documents that you should have together in case you pass away, and people need to be able to find the information. Okay, so...
But before you go on to that, we will always have all of this information on our website, and there will be a link to it, so please click. And don't forget to like and subscribe and share your thoughts and comments with us, please.
Yeah, it really helps us out when you interact with the channel. Algorithm loves it, so we appreciate everyone who does that for us. Not having a will in place is a nightmare for anyone left behind. It is an absolute nightmare.
And that is not even, that's for anybody, right?
Yeah,
that's not even
board.
For a person with special needs or intellectual disabilities, that their capability is not going to be able to navigate the system.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for anyone to navigate the system, but it's even more important and more necessary if you have a dependent who can't care for themselves. Yep. So a will, it basically, in a will, you get to specifically, you get to specify exactly how your property and your assets are going to be distributed. Basically, who gets what, right? And without a will, because we're in Canada, we're in Ontario, the provincial or territorial government will determine who inherits your stuff.
Which is a long, lengthy, trying, and frustrating process.
And expensive.
And expensive, yes. Which might leave you with nothing at the end of it.
I mean, it might. The other thing that you could look into is setting up a trust. In Canada, we have Henson trusts. I'm not going to go into too much detail with that. You really need legal counsel to walk you through. You need a lawyer who's experienced in the legal structures of protecting someone with a disability. There's also a registered disability savings plan that you can set up when they're you can set that up in your child's name and contribute to that whenever you have the funds to do that, as from the time that they're formally diagnosed. And I have all that information again on the website. The government also contributes to that. So that's just preparing your child for their distant future, basically for their retirement, or to supplement their income along the way.
Yep.
Right. That is a long-term thing. But back to wills. So one part of a will is that you have to choose an executor, right? And that's basically just a fancy term to have someone who's going to manage it, right? So they're going to manage your estate and ensure that your wishes are carried out. That's all that they do.
Yep.
And you can have a person do that. You can have a lawyer do that, whatever works for your particular situation. But without a will, the court is just going to appoint someone to be your executor, right? And like you said, delay and cost. The other thing that's important is designating a guardian for children. And we talked a little bit about this in our previous episode. It's that was more for a guardian for when someone's turning 18. And I'm talking about a guardian for children under the age of 18. So if you pass away before your children are 18, you would need to have a guardian for them. And without a will, the courts again will have to determine who that's going to be. And that might not end up being the person you want it to be.
Yep. And, and then if anybody contests it, that leaves that poor person in limbo for a very long time.
It can, yeah. And the last part of this is a power of attorney. And a power of attorney is just a legal document that allows someone you trust to make financial or personal care decisions for you if you are unable to do so yourself. So this isn't when you pass away, this is if you become incapacitated in some form, that you're not able to make decisions, your power of attorney will make those decisions for you. So again, that has to be someone that you trust and you talk to them about what you would like to see happen if you are no longer able to make decisions for yourself.
Yep. It's those are very difficult conversations to have, right? And you'd be surprised at the times where you can approach somebody where you feel would be the right fit, and they surprise you by saying, I've given it thought, but I don't think I can. So don't always count on that one person that you think is the right fit going to be the one to step up to the, to bat for you.
This is work for that person. This is not straightforward. This is work.
Yep.
So you really need to have a conversation and let that person know what kind of responsibility they're taking on by saying yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's basically the legal stuff. But of course, there's more to it than legal stuff. So how do you decide who the guardian is going to be for your child?
So there's, across the board, let's talk about a neurotypical person. You've got a lot more people that would be willing to accept that responsibility. And it's a lifelong responsibility, right? This is not like, no, this is lifelong, right?
With neurotypical kids, you sort of have the assumption that at some point they will be independent adults. And yeah, you might be there for them, but they're basically able to do things for themselves.
Provide for themselves,
right?
Work, personal care, all
Exactly.
of that. Yes, absolutely.
But for autistic children, sometimes they can grow up to be fully independent adults. It doesn't mean that they don't have support needs. We'll always have support needs, but you might be able to manage most of those needs yourself. But for autistic people who are level 2, level 3, who might always need a higher level of support, that is lifelong.
It is.
Yep. Right? So you do your best to try to prepare your kids to be as independent as possible, but what that's going to look like is going to be dependent on the person. So for me, Alex is level 1 and he has lower support needs, and I am hoping at some point in his life that he is fully independent, but I can't just assume that he's going to be, right? I can't assume that he's going to suddenly take an interest in finances.
Yeah, there's also that vulnerability factor, right? Which we spoke about, and this is where you need to put in those protective layers in order to ensure that, no one is taking them to the cleaners.
Yeah, and it's difficult. It is difficult because it is so specific to the individual where their strengths are and where their supports lie. For Peter, who is level 3 non-speaking, I can't say that he's never going to be independent because I don't know. But currently, he has high support needs. So if I was to pass away, I would need to have a guardian for him who understood what his support needs are and was willing to take on that responsibility. And it's a lot of responsibility, and it could be lifelong responsibility.
Yeah, it is.
So I mean, he's going to need help with life skills like banking, shopping, daily living. Like that is a tremendous amount to ask of someone. I can't just assume that because his brother has lower support needs that he will take on that responsibility. That's not fair.
Or if you have a situation where you have a neurodivergent child and you ask your neurotypical child, who is now an adult, to take care of your neurodivergent child, that's a hard conversation. And
don't assume it's just going to happen. That's not fair. They need to have a say. Just because they're a sibling doesn't mean that sibling is their responsibility. It isn't.
And these are the difficult conversations. And if you do approach your child and just say, hey, if something happens to me, are you willing to? And they say no, you cannot take that personally. It might, yes, it's going to hurt. You're going to be disappointed, But you know, if they're being honest and truthful to you about saying, I don't think I can do that. I don't think I would be able to do that in my brother or sister's best interest. You're going to have to take that.
It can also be, I don't want to.
Yep, absolutely.
That's also fair. I don't want to do that. Okay.
So you know, and you know, listen to them because they need to have an equal opportunity in saying what happens too.
Yeah. And as I get older, I need to make sure that I have something in place, right? I can't just say, well, I'll worry about that later. No, you can't. Anything can happen at any time.
Yeah. You've got to have all of that in place in case something else happens, because if you don't have that in place, the government steps in. The reality of the situation that if you didn't have a will in place and, you know, and Alex is unable to care for Peter, Peter becomes a ward of the state, right? He becomes, and what they decide to do with him or institute him or not, you know,
Whatever happens,
that's
happens.
the reality.
Yeah,
and it's a
right.
scary and reality. We're not trying to scare people into things, but we're bringing the facts to the forefront of this conversation.
We also know that transitions can be extremely distressing for autistic individuals. So having the most things in place that you possibly can have to minimize the stress of transitioning is going to be what's in your autistic child's best interest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've talked about the hot mess that alternative housing is in Canada. In episode 31, we talked about alternative living, and I'll put a link to that. But even transitioning to a different caregiver is going to take time.
It is. Yeah.
Right? So that's, you're really going to need to spend time with a potential guardian to make sure that they completely understand all of what's involved. And every autistic person is different needs, preferences, and tools to aid in regulation. So it's not as simple as, oh, I'll go and check on him from time to time. No, that's not what's involved.
No.
Right? Like, this would be someone who's used to spending time with the autistic individual and helping with daily activities as needed.
Yep. And also having a conversation that when the person that you becomes now the guardian of your child, you know, what steps are they going to put into place when they are old and unable to care for your child anymore, who's now an adult? So, you know, the conversations that you have are not conversations that address the present or the near future, but also way down the line when they are no longer able to provide the care and support that your adult child would need. So this is a marathon conversation, and it cannot be done in just sitting down and having a cup of tea and it's all done in one conversation. No, this is going to require a true understanding of what, you know, the complexity of caring for that child is, the process of it, and you have to allow that person time to digest the information and the request, and before giving you a response.
And you also need to take into consideration that a yes today is not the same as saying, oh yeah, I can do that today, but 5 years down the line, something might have changed in their lives.
Yep.
Right?
So,
this is something you kind of need to revisit.
It's a living document, so it's going to possibly change down the line. So these are important conversations to have now. And, you know, and every 5 years, like you said, it's a good thing to do a recheck and just to make sure that this person is still has the ability and is still willing to do so.
Exactly. The other part of this I think is really important to talk about is having all of your important documents accessible to your executor or your power of attorney or whoever you trust to take care of things once you've passed away.
Yeah. And this is information that I think should be stored in two formats, and it should be in a paper format and it should be electronically as well. So, and, you know, I know we're just adding an extra layer onto here. If you do store your documents at home, make sure it's in something that's fireproof, right? And you know, this is effective planning, folks. This is me at my job doing, you know, thinking 10 steps ahead and making sure that I've, you know, dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's when it comes down to it.
Yeah. And I mean, if you have it in a fireproof container, chances are there's a key to that. You have to put the key somewhere. You know what I mean? Like you give the person a key, give them a copy of it so they have it, right? Like this is someone you trust. It should be someone you trust now, right? Okay. So I've broken this down to a few categories because, I like to be organized.
Yep.
The first one is financial documents. Okay. So account numbers and contact information. That's it. Bank accounts, investments, credit cards. And again, I'm going to put this all on our website. You don't have to write it down. Insurance information for your home or your vehicle. Vehicle information will also include your ownership, any finance or leasing information, maintenance records. Then you're also going to need to have tax returns for like the last 7 years.
Yeah.
Right? Mortgage documents or rental agreements. Right? It's you take all of these things sort of for granted that this is just part of your daily living, but someone coming into this, you've passed away suddenly. They're going to have to go and try to sort through all of your belongings to find
everything,
all of this information. And they're already in an emotional state. And it can't wait.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Bills are going to be paid whether you are dead or alive. And, these, and as an executor, you're going to have to act on that straight away.
Yeah. My next category is legal documents, things like your birth certificate and your passport, your driver's license, health card, your will, right? That has to be accessible. It's great that you have one. That's great. Now it has to be accessible to that person, right? Yep. Your social insurance number card, your life insurance, a marriage certificate, divorce certificate, right? Like all of those things are important documents that you need to have.
Yep.
My last heading, sort of your household, your personal documents and information. Utility provider accounts, right? So that includes all your passwords for those things. A list of your important contacts, right? So your work, your doctor, dentist, like most people have all of these things in their phones already, but then you have to leave that person the password to your phone.
Yeah.
Right? So your phone password, your computer password, any tablet passwords, all of those things can be written down. And then a list of the username and passwords for any subscriptions that need to be canceled. Life is complicated.
It is. When you actually sit down and, this list was being compiled, you go, oh my God. I did not know I came with so much bleep in my life.
I mean, I could not prepare Alex for this. He would not know the first place to start in knowing what these documents are and what's important and what isn't important. Mm-hmm. And I would imagine that this is a good list for anyone, not just autistic people, right? But this is so much more important if you have autistic dependents.
Yeah, it is. And you're going to have somebody who's going to be able to, navigate this storm successfully, as well as, help your child navigate through this as well.
To not have this together and have someone come in and have to find all of this information while supporting Alex, while supporting Peter, that is not fair for me to burden you with that if I was to pass away. That's not fair.
Yep.
Right?
So
also, that person's going to be missing you too, and they have to put their emotions on hold in order to go through all of this.
Yeah, crying in the shower every night is going to be really helpful. Just saying.
We're at an age now where I know a lot of people's parents are getting older and passing away, right? That's where I feel like my friend group this is happening. And for parents who don't have a will in place, it has been an absolute nightmare.
It is. Yep.
And even when they have a will in place, even getting it sorted then has been a nightmare.
Yeah.
So I know this is hard to talk about and hard to think about. And for some people out there, they're like, well, there's no place for my child to go. There's no one who's going to take them. I get it.
Yeah. And but you can also make arrangements to ensure that your child has the best possible care if they do get awarded to the state, right? So, you know, you can make sure that there is, adequate, funding provided for them to be able to do certain things, right? So just, I know it's a lot for people to take in. It is a very emotionally and mentally heavy subject, but it is absolutely crucial. Whether you are neurodivergent or neurotypical, this is an important aspect of life.
I know you kept pushing this topic and I kept going, I don't want to do this one. This one's hard. And you're like, I know, but it's important. I'm like, okay.
It is important. I mean, we've got it sorted out. So we're ahead of the game that way, right? We're one step, we have a game plan in place.
Yes,
there are people
you live forever and everything is good.
Thank you very much. I think my kids would be very pleased with that. There will not be a cardboard cutout of me life size with a voice box.
Please explain that. Please explain that. Please tell that story.
Yeah. We were having a conversation about, wills and, all of that. And my son was, turned around to me and said, well, that's okay, Mom. I'm just going to have a cardboard cutout, life-size cardboard cutout of you and a voice box, and all will be good. So
he's neurotypical, by the way, and
our family has a morbid sense of humor.
Indeed, but I mean, he's going to be. He was what, 17, 16 at the time that he said
16,
that?
Yeah.
And you see how dependent, a youngish adult kind of, like getting up towards adulthood is still dependent on their parents. And that is going to be so much more amplified for an autistic child.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. But yeah, apparently a cardboard cutout of myself and a voice box.
Funny. He's so funny.
Will be, with Captain Kirk no matter where he goes.
Yeah, just going to travel around with you.
Yeah. Now, I think this also leads us to bridging the aspect of when you're dealing with having to execute a will, is people often, you say the person executing that for you has to put their emotions in check. But you're also having to navigate the loss of someone. And I think it's important for us to have a conversation of what, grieving looks like for a person with autism. I think that is a wonderful way for us to segue into our next episode and to give us tips and understanding on how you can help support that person when dealing with loss.
Yeah, bereavement can look very, very different for an autistic person. And I am actually really excited to talk about this.
So, okay. Well, until next time, please don't forget to comment and share, especially on this subject. We would love to hear from you. Till then, have a great day.
We'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in. If you know someone who might find this episode helpful, feel free to share. Also, check out our website and socials linked in the description.